Click the links to my channel here over at SubScribe. So this goes back a little. Part of this is to Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, which seems like about a million years ago, and it seems kind of silly now because things have moved on so quickly into bigger problems. You look at this kind of stupid Hollywood stuff, and to look back at how many people were concerned with the lives of two actors and how they used it as a proxy war for I don't know, I guess feminism or something. This was kind of back in the days when feminism was over its peak by then, but it was still part of the cultural war that was being fought. And I guess it was a left versus right issue. It seemed like people were kind of all over the map on that. But the idea of if this happened today, a relationship fight, I don't think it would have the same energy behind it. And I mean, there's a lot spinning on this culture war plates. There's two conflicts going on overseas that the left seems very focused on. Anyway, so Pirates of the Caribbean, you could go back and watch the first three Pirates and watch it and pause the video every 20 minutes and make note of what would be politically correct today and what little things they do differently. And the thing is, you'd start to realize how woke things have got. And me saying it doesn't really connect until you actually watch it with a piece of paper and start making notes. And by the end of the movie, you get through it and you realize, like, oh, you filled up the paper with little pieces of the movie that they just wouldn't do today. Even if they're not exactly politically correct, but you get the feeling that, oh, this structure between man and woman, this dynamic of here in one little scene, the woman's a little bit too subservient, the way she looks, her avoids her eyes or something like this. It's a little too, flirty, submissive. And they just wouldn't do that nowadays. And I think Pirates of the Caribbean was like, 2011? That wasn't that long ago. And already things have changed so fast because this culture war is, ever accelerating. This train on methamphetamines and nitroglycerin is going downhill in the snow. So you can go back and you can watch all those little pieces and you'll start to realize how bad things have got and how bad things have got for the Hollywood industry. And you can look at... a great website is Movies by the Number to look at the history of like Warner and Marvel movies to see how well they fared. And there's movies that you probably haven't even known came out, like Aquaman Part 3 came out. It's completely slipped past my radar, and I looked at the numbers and I was like, whoa, how did nobody see a Jason Momoa movie? I thought he was popular with the kids, the left-wing crowd or something, and that movie came out. And nobody, I guess the Wu Flu had something to do with it, but still, it's like, shouldn't it make up some money in streaming? Anyway, it seems like with the original Pirates, where they have a three-way heterosexual romance with the beautiful and super thin Keira Knightley, would they have that nowadays? Three fair-skinned looking people and a beautiful girl in a corset, and like they had some little subtle woke elements, like because she's in the corset, which is pushing her boobs out and makes her look fantastic, but then she loses her breath, so it's like, okay, there's a little bit back and forth. They're saying that that's a kind of a sexist thing, that fashion type of thing, that she almost drowns and Johnny Depp has to rescue her. But there's also, you have the 20-year-old Keira Knightley who looks like she weighs about 100 pounds, just looking absolutely fantastic in that movie. So they're kind of getting it both ways because they're using the sex appeal of her to sell, but then they also make a point about the corset being too tight. I thought that was, and when I kind of started thinking about it, I thought that's very clever of them. And honestly, the whole movie feels very clever in a way that Disney could not do it today. It unfortunately did have a lot of POCs in it, which obviously I'm not a fan of, but it was tolerable because you had the strong cast, the main cast, but you also had the British pirates, British soldiers in the redcoats, but then you also had the pirates. So you had this lightning in a bottle cast, and I know it's just a simple kind of kids movie, though it did have some adult themes, but it worked. It worked really, really well. Like Star Wars was a kids movie, but it was also a fun movie. But the whole vibe of the movie wouldn't be able to be reproduced today. They say time is a river, you can't cross twice. It's more like the woke globalists have spent the past 15 years just going all out to poison that river. So they were toying with an idea of making an all-girl version of a Pirates movie. And I think they were talking about Margot Robbie. That was probably before Birds of Prey, the Suicide Squad Part 1 sequel that came out, and I think that actually bombed. And then they made SS Squad Part 2, and I guess that bombed too. So Margot Robbie's has kind of fallen off the radar. The thing is, the only way that would work, a female, vagina pirates, would be if it was a politically incorrect comedy, and they're just not gonna do that. They'd make it look like the beginning of Wonder Woman '84, where the ladies are on some island and it's a tribe. It's a lost race of, like a. It kind of reminds me of the Chuck Dixon comic. Was it Ravage, Kill All Men? It's a fantastic comic where he could write a story like this where you just have fun with it and you set it back, and it's like it could be anywhere in the 20s and 30s, where it's just a total different, where you could have, who's that guy, the Lost World, Arthur Conan Doyle, and H.G. Wells and Jules Verne. They did all these kind of Lost World stories. But anyway, so Wonder Woman '84, you've got a lost race of women, and it's like, well, it's a tribe, so morphology, they all have to look like they're all one group of women, right? Like, it's probably based on Greeks, I would assume, at the time. But when you watch the movie, it's all Chinese, black, some Europeans thrown in there, Indians, Arabs, whatever. It's like that's not how a tribe, a race of women work, where you have like people from 10,000 miles away. That doesn't make sense. It makes sense in the mind of Patty Jenkins and the woke, because it's a diversity checklist, and it's absolutely the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And I watched that movie twice anyway. But that's what they would have to do with the girl pirate version, is make it fun and funny. And they wouldn't. They would just go, oh, we're going to make the wokest thing. And they say this stuff, and you want to take them aside and go, yeah, the past dozen female woke movies from Marvel, DC have all lost money. I mean, the Marvels with Brie Larson, and who's the other one with Sweeney, Madam Web, like those came out back to back, and those were girl power movies, and the Marvels was like the biggest bomb in Marvel Disney history. And Madam Web was probably right behind it. So, and then the Eternals had two leading chicks as well, and that also lost money. You'd think, and then Birds of Prey was another. I mean, you get the idea. And then Wonder Woman '84 was another bomb. It's like that's just off the top of my head. These movies clearly aren't selling, and they look at you. It's like, Nazi says what? It's just what a Hugo Boss would say. It's like these people they're taking crazy pills. So no, an all girl Pirates of the Caribbean would be absolutely horrible. Anyway, there's a rumor that Johnny Depp might come back for a final Pirates movie, but it wouldn't matter, because even if he did, those days of making successful fun movies are over. The closest comparison would be a movie, perhaps you didn't see it because nobody did, was they remade Peter Pan a couple years ago. I think that was during the Wu Flu, where they race swapped out the English, and the story is, uniquely English, for an Indian lead, which is turned out not to be a popular decision. And then the Lost Boys, they swapped them out and used black girls. And predictably, the movie bombed. I'm sure I don't even remember the movie that I did see. I'm sure the bad guys are, of course, still fair. And that's the future of Disney, where it's gay, mixed race, sodomy, communist, AIDS. Anything they touch, they're going to destroy. And I was watching the first movie as I was going through this, and for what it is, it's a solid movie. It's a little woke for the time, but they can't make anything close to it these days. And I will say the setting for the movie was fan-friggin-tastic. What's the last movie they made? The affirmative action Captain America movie that looks like it's going to lose a ton of money. But there's a line in the original Pirates of the Caribbean in the first few minutes of the movie where Depp says something like his goal is to rape and pillage until his black guts are satisfied. Just those two simple points are not politically correct today. And I'm sure for the time when they put that struggle snuggle line in there for the movie, they were probably not happy about putting it in there, but they knew it had to have some verisimilitude, and that's what a pirate does. He steals anything he can and removes people from this mortal coil and drinks a lot of rum. But like even referring to his guts in that color as a pejorative wouldn't be allowed today. because they'd have somebody on Twitter. I don't know the state of Twitter in 2011, but they'd have people on Twitter who would be breaking it down. I mean, it'd be fascinating to see if somebody had the balls to come out and make a movie like this, but there's just nobody in Hollywood like that. But it's little pieces like that that go into the totality of a movie, and when you start to remove them, you're left with what you see when you look around you with modern Disney or Hollywood in general. It's just nothing's exciting. It's all just unflavored rice. So DEI Captain America did worse than I expected, and that's going to be another probably $100 million bomb. Which, interestingly enough, it follows Harrison Ford's even bigger bomb with Indiana Jones Part 5, where in their infinite wisdom they brought the time-traveling Nazis to lecture the audience about Trump. Was probably the analogy they were hoping you'd draw, or something equally stupid. And the movie lost a huge amount of money for Disney, so it's kind of funny to see Harrison Ford tied to a bunch of. I mean, a lot of people in Hollywood have been tied to a bunch of losing movies lately. So yeah, they could pay Johnny Depp $50 million to come back, and it wouldn't matter until they kill woke, and they're not going to do that. They're too far gone. I don't think they have it in them, because it's been too long since they made a good movie, and to watch them even make the attempt would just be painful. It might even cross over into so bad it's good, and Disney would just be a parody of what it was. But Disney right now, and Hollywood in general, is not so bad it's good. These movies they're just nothing. They're trying not to, like that Captain America movie, when they said it had a bunch of reshoots and you watch the movie, you're like, I can tell something is off with this movie, where it felt like they wanted to lean into Trump and the Red Hulk more, but they knew the audience wasn't going to go for it. So they're left with this milquetoast movie where they're kind of letting you draw the analogy between Trump, but it wasn't so over the top. Anyway, it's been taken over by these parasites where things still have the Disney name, or the name of the, like Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, though it's Amazon. Now Amazon got the rights to 007. So they're going to do to 007 what they did to Lord of the Rings. They're going to turn it into Rings of Power. It's going to be an abomination. And the last James Bond movie, it had James Bond on the back of not even a motorcycle. It was on the back of like a 150cc motor scooter, and the black chick was driving, and he was just sitting there. Like, I can understand if he's on the back of a Japanese sports bike, a 1 liter turbocharged, and she's ripping through the gears, and he's got like a Mac 10 in each hand, and he's just yeeting people left and right while she's and he's holding on with his legs, and she's just ripping through the city. It's like that would be the only way you could put the guy on the back of a bike with machine guns on each hand. Instead, they put him on the back of a moped. It's like probably an automatic. It's absolutely pathetic. Anyway, my point is that, like, you think that movie was bad, and I think it did. I think it made a profit even with all the reshoots. The problem is that Amazon's going to make it even worse, because if you've seen Rings of Power, you saw what they did to that. If they really wanted to, they could bring back Johnny Depp. You just find, though, I will say, like, trying to find a cast like the original movie. This original movie, go back and watch it. It feels like lightning in a bottle, and it was a good time. It's like the movie just carried you along really quickly because the three main leads were fantastic. But it's one of those movies where everybody just worked, including like all the side characters. They were all perfectly cast. It'd be interesting to see who did the casting for that, or who made the decisions on that. So yeah, they could if they wanted to, but and it would go a long way towards repairing the damage to Disney reputation if Disney decided, you know what, we're going to turn Disney around. We're going to go in this direction, like they almost started to do with Deadpool Part 3, Deadpool and Wolverine, and then they just backed away from it. It's like that's and it wasn't even like, it wasn't an anti-woke movie. It was just a more neutral movie, and it wasn't even a good movie. It's just that everything else has been such absolute effing dog s that it makes that kind of movie look good. So right now they're making movies where they just hope they break even, which the Captain America is the last movie they made, and they're probably not even going to hit the $450 million they need unless something magical happens or some kind of attention drawn to that movie. Movies are so woke and stupid that even the left-wing bleeding soy boys are admitting that they're not good. But then when you get on Twitter or Reddit and you go, yeah, the reason they're not good is because they're woke, they lose their effing minds. So they mentioned one of the things that bothered Black Twitter was that Anthony Mackie, he's Captain America, right? But before this, he's some bird character, the Falcon. So he's got not titanium wings, like vibranium wings. It's like a MacGuffin in this movie universe. So he's got this shield of one character. He's like the amazing Mary Sue characters. Why not just give him web shooters? He's got the Captain America shield, but he's also Falcon and he can fly. It's like a child's Chimera character. But the wings are, the MacGuffin vibranium or adamantium or something like that. I guess it's probably the Wakanda. I mean, it's bizarre to know so much about this really stupid fictional universe. So the Black Twitter's upset because in their mind they have a strawman version where people, other nerds are upset that he uses wing to stop the Red Hulk, and they go, "Oh, well, people only complained about it because he's black," and it was a black crowd that was talking about it. But the bigger question is, well, why didn't the black audience turn up for the movie? Because the movie is right now, it's in its second weekend. Their second weekend's over and it's losing. Right now it's on its path to losing a respectable amount of money. So how come they turned up for Black Panther and helped Black Panther hit over $1 billion? But they and the rest of the crowd have been non-existent now. The white audience is obviously underrepresented, but the movie isn't for them. It's for a diversity in quotes audience. Because I think the main character is, well, one's black, I think, and one's Latin of some sort, and it's at $220 million now, and it's probably not going to make a profit, even though it had a good opening. But when I point out that, oh well, diversity is the problem, people have got diversity fatigue, and maybe I don't express it precisely in those words. I might use some euphemisms, but they lose their mind when they hear a little bit of reality. But the thing is, it doesn't, like, you can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring it. If they made a Pirates of the Caribbean like the original 2011 Disney version, you're going to have a massive hit. And yeah, obviously it's the Caribbean, so, unfortunately it does have to have a little diversity, but a little bit is okay because it fits the setting. People understand. All you have to do is get some beautiful women to be the sex interests, like a Keira Knightley type of woman when she was 20. The like left-wing kids would probably be triggered by how skinny she was in that movie. So here's the thing: the interesting difference between the Wakanda sci-fi setting with the Afrofuturism was that it was just black focused at the core, and it was black power focused and a power fantasy, which is fine because movies are supposed to be escapism. But you have to give everyone their little bit of escapism. And it's funny to think what they gave the, I guess, Mexican audience was Blue Beetle. And that movie, I guess, bombed as well, and because it's like it was a much more down to earth movie, and the blacks get Afrofuturism with Wakanda, but nobody else gets a movie that cool, which is kind of interesting when you think about it. Anyway, Captain America wasn't any of those things. You had a half a dozen movies with Chris Evans, and then they swap him out as Marvel is dying. It's just not going to be the same audience. Anyway, it doesn't matter what Disney does. This woke direction is permanent, and it's fatal. I'm sure Johnny Depp would love to go in there and take a huge paycheck, but it would end up like Indy 5, where people are watching it, where the actors in that also got a huge paycheck. They're watching it and they're wondered why they bothered to make it, because it feels like, are you somehow laundering money by losing money? I mean, no, because they're losing too much money. But they made that money. They made the Indy 5, and that got past all these people sitting around editing. Like, people had to check off on the script and go, yeah, this is what we want. We're going to bring back time traveling Nazis, and they all checked off on it. They go, yeah, this is going to get the audience. This like Black Power girl with her afro, and then the Australian woman who had to, I don't know, like lead Indy around, and like they are sitting around and thinking, this movie's going to make money, or we're gonna own the chuds by having some kind of feminist girl power movie and own the chuds by having the movie lose like $200 million or something. The point is, Hollywood and the audience are on fundamentally different pages. They live in cocaine-fueled, bizarro world where they think Trump is going to invade Poland or have the audacity to end the Ukrainian meat grinder, which now the left is cheering for war, which is a kind of an interesting left wing. They didn't used to be like this. Oddly enough, though, they're not volunteering to go fight over in Ukraine. They're kind of cheering from the safety of their couch, and I go like, oh, who do you expect to go fight? Oh, you want white Americans to go over there and die. Anyway, the next 4 years of Hollywood are going to be people who are kind of waiting for things to come on streaming, because those are the kind of movies they're making. might be okay enough to watch, but they're not okay enough to leave the house for, and spend $15 just for the ticket and then another whatever for popcorn or something. And they could do a pirate streaming movie, but you run into the same problem of wokeness. But the other thing that streaming has run into lately is they've got addicted to overspending. And there's a reason for this, and it's kind of hard to say in a politically correct way on social media. They're using actors who have a negative appeal to the audience. So they're spending a lot more money on sets and special effects and CGI, where if they just got actors that the audience could identify with, who looked more like this Swedish bikini team, like The Acolyte. You had some actors in there. It was girl power and also some diversity, and that's not a sales point. Where if you got like Carrie Fisher back when she was 22, that kind of woman, with the body on her, and you put her as the lead character, if you have to have girl power, and you really shouldn't because nobody gives a shit about girl power. But if you had to, you want female energy that appeals to everyone. And it's going to be somebody who looked like Carrie Fisher when she was, 25 or something. A pretty attractive, fair-skinned person. Because that appeals to the biggest audience. And they kind of went in the other direction. And it's not like these movies are not made in a vacuum. There's a lot of cultural, societal issues that have gone on in the past 4 years of riots. And people want a little bit of escapism, and when you see these Disney movies and it's like, oh, it's like just more wokeism. Hey, probably a POC lesbian female with the side of her head shaved, and oh, hey, look, black witches on Endor or something with Wookiees, and who are those little like teddy bears in Return of the Jedi? It's like, oh, hey. It's weird because the original Star Wars didn't have a lot of POCs in it, so that kind of set the vibe for the show. That's the vibe, that's the universe. And Disney looks at you like, yeah, we're gonna make everyone like black and lesbian now. Oh, how is that working out for you? We're probably gonna go bankrupt in the next 10 years. Well, hopefully we're all here to watch it. That would just be so awesome to watch. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next episode.